ExamPrep.School. Wisconsin Credit Insurance Exam, Exam Code 22-12. There are 6 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Credit Insurance Basics, General Insurance, Insurance Regulation, Types of Consumer Credit Insurance. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. According to Wisconsin Administrative Code, which of the following individuals is required to hold a limited line credit insurance producer license in Wisconsin? A. A salaried employee of a creditor who only solicits the creditor's own credit insurance policies. B. An independent producer who negotiates credit insurance policies on behalf of multiple insurers for a commission. C. A financial institution employee who receives no commission and only explains policy terms to borrowers. D. A representative of a credit reporting agency providing applicants with credit scores. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because any individual or entity that, for compensation, solicits or negotiates limited line credit insurance on behalf of insurers must hold a limited line credit insurance producer license under Wisconsin law. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because salaried employees of a creditor selling only their employer's own policies are exempt from licensure. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because employees who receive no compensation and merely explain policy terms do not require a license. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because credit reporting agency representatives are not involved in selling or negotiating insurance products. Question 2. Under Wisconsin regulations, credit insurance producers must retain transaction records for a specified minimum period. What is the required retention duration? A. 3 years following the date of policy expiration. B. 1 year after a final settlement of a claim. C. 5 years after completion of the transaction. Thus, D. 7 years from the date of policy issuance. The correct answer is C. This option is correct because Wisconsin law requires credit insurance producers to maintain all transaction records for at least 5 years after the completion of each transaction. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because the required retention period is longer than 3 years. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because retention is based on transaction completion rather than claim settlement. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because the specified statutory retention period is shorter than 7 years. Question 3. Christine holds a resident insurance producer license in Wisconsin that was originally issued on July 10, 2021. Christine's birth month is December. If she does not renew her license, on which date will it expire under Wisconsin law? A. July 9, 2023. B. December 12, 2023. C. July 10, 2023. D. December 31, 2023. The correct answer is D. The license expiration is determined by the last day of the licensee's birth month, 2 years after issuance. Since her birth month is December and her license was issued on July 10, 2021, it expires on December 31, 2023. Reason A is not correct. This reflects 2 years minus 1 day from issuance but ignores the birth month expiration rule. Reason B is not correct. This uses the birth date rather than the last day of the birth month required for expiration. Reason C is not correct. This marks the 2-year anniversary of issuance, but Wisconsin uses the end of the licensee's birth month for expiration. Question 4. Under Wisconsin law, during an investigation of an insurer, the Commissioner of Insurance has the authority to A. Subpoena insurers to produce financial records and compel officers to testify under oath. B. Levy criminal fines against insurer officers for violating record-keeping requirements. C. Revoke an insurer's certificate of authority without first holding a hearing. D. Seize an insurer's assets for immediate liquidation without court approval. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the commissioner may subpoena books, records, and witnesses and administer oaths during an investigation. The other actions require either judicial proceedings, criminal referral, or due process hearings before revocation or asset seizure. Reason B is not correct. Criminal penalties must be pursued through the Department of Justice, not directly imposed by the commissioner. Reason C is not correct. Revocation of authority requires a formal hearing and due process procedures before the commissioner can take that action. Reason D is not correct. Asset seizure for liquidation requires a court order and is not a unilateral power of the commissioner. Question 5. After receiving credible evidence that a Wisconsin licensed insurance producer may have misappropriated client premiums, the insurance commissioner initiates an inquiry. Under Wisconsin law, which authority may the commissioner invoke to compel the producer to appear for examination under oath and to produce relevant financial records? A. Enter the producer's office without prior notice to seize and review records. B. Require the producer to provide a written statement without the right to counsel. C. Suspend the producer's license immediately pending completion of the inquiry. D. Issue a subpoena compelling testimony under oath and production of specified records. The correct answer is D. Wisconsin statutes grant the commissioner authority to issue subpoenas to compel attendance, examination under oath, and production of books and records. This power is the primary tool for investigations, whereas entry without subpoena, compelled unwitnessed statements, or summary suspensions without due process are not authorized investigative measures. Reason A is not correct. The commissioner cannot lawfully enter and seize records without first obtaining a subpoena or court order. Reason B is not correct. Producers have the right to counsel during examinations, and it cannot be forced to give unsworn statements without legal representation. Reason C is not correct. A license suspension is an enforcement action requiring due process, not an initial investigative authority to compel testimony or records. Question 6. Under Wisconsin insurance advertising standards, which of the following constitutes misrepresentation? A. Omitting the regulatory file and approval identifiers in a print advertisement. B. Advertising policy dividends as guaranteed when they are payable at the insurer's discretion. C. Using comparative feature charts to illustrate coverage differences. D. Listing policy exclusions in a footnote at the bottom of the advertisement. The correct answer is B. Misrepresentation occurs when an advertisement falsely promises guaranteed dividends that are actually discretionary under the policy. Reason A is not correct. Failing to display filing identifiers violates procedural requirements, but is not a misrepresentation of policy terms. Reason C is not correct. Comparative charts are permissible if accurate and not misleading regarding coverage. Reason D is not correct. Listing exclusions even in fine print is disclosure rather than misrepresentation. Question 7. Under Wisconsin's false advertising rules for insurance marketing, which element is not required to establish a violation? A. Publication of the deceptive statement in any medium. B. Demonstration of intent to deceive or mislead consumers. C. Proof that consumers actually relied on the false statement. D. Evidence that the statement pertains to material aspects of coverage. The correct answer is C. Wisconsin law does not require proof of actual consumer reliance to establish false advertising. Intent and publication suffice. Reason A is not correct. Publication is a core element, as the deceptive statement must be communicated publicly. Reason B is not correct. Intent to deceive is explicitly required to prove false advertising under state law. Reason D is not correct. Materiality of the statement to coverage decisions is required to show significance of the deception. Question 8. A Wisconsin licensed insurance agent tells a commercial client that if the client purchases a package liability policy and has no claims in the first policy year, the agent will refund 10% of the premium at renewal. Which practice is the agent engaging in under Wisconsin insurance regulation? A. Misrepresentation. B. Rebating. C. Coercion. D. Twisting. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is rebating, because refunding a portion of the premium contingent on no claims constitutes an inducement that returns premium, which Wisconsin law expressly prohibits. Reason A is not correct. A misrepresentation involves false or misleading statements about coverage or benefits, not returning premium as an inducement. Reason C is not correct. Coercion refers to using force or threats to influence a purchase, not offering a premium refund for no claims. Reason D is not correct. Twisting involves persuading a policyholder to replace existing coverage for personal gain, not refunding part of the premium. Question 9. An insurer in Wisconsin charges homeowners in predominantly low-income neighborhoods a 20% higher rate for identical property policies, even though past claims data show no increased risk in those areas. Which practice does this scenario illustrate under Wisconsin insurance regulations? A. Unfair discrimination. B. Misrepresentation. C. Rebating. D. Defamation. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is unfair discrimination, because imposing higher rates on a group without any actuarial basis violates Wisconsin's prohibition against unjustified rate differentials. Reason B is not correct. A misrepresentation involves false statements about policy terms or benefits, not unjustified rate differences. Reason C is not correct. Rebating involves returning premium as an inducement, not charging higher premiums. Reason D is not correct. Defamation concerns making harmful false statements about a person, not rate-setting practices. Question 10. Which of the following best describes the primary objective of the Fair Credit Reporting Act? A. To promote the accuracy, fairness, and privacy of consumer credit information. B. To cap the fees charged by credit reporting agencies for providing credit files. C. To mandate free periodic credit report disclosures to all consumers. D. To enforce standardized credit scoring models across all reporting entities. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is to promote accuracy, fairness, and privacy of consumer credit information, because the FCRA was enacted to protect consumers by requiring reasonable procedures that ensure their credit data is handled properly. The Act does not primarily focus on capping agency fees, nor does it mandate free periodic reports for all consumers beyond specified disclosures or enforce standardized scoring models. Reason B is not correct. This distractor is incorrect because the Act does not primarily aim to cap reporting agency fees. Instead, it emphasizes consumer information, accuracy, and privacy. Reason C is not correct. This distractor is incorrect because reporting agencies already provide specific free disclosures under the FCRA, but that requirement supports the broader goal of accuracy and privacy rather than serving as the Act's main objective. Reason D is not correct. This distractor is incorrect because the FCRA does not require standardized credit scoring models. It governs how credit information is collected, used, and shared. Question 11. Under the FCRA's permissible purpose provisions, Which of the following statements is correct regarding Safeguard Insurance's second retrieval of Abreu's consumer report? A. A new consumer authorization is required because the original application consent only covered underwriting purposes. B. Retrieving the report to investigate or settle Abreu's insurance claim is a permissible purpose under FCRA. C. Accessing the report is allowed only if Abreu's policy has lapsed due to unpaid premiums. D. A court order must be obtained for any subsequent report retrieval under FCRA. The correct answer is B. The FCRA expressly lists investigating or settling insurance claims as a permissible purpose for obtaining a consumer report, and no additional consumer authorization is required for that purpose. Reason A is not correct. This misinterprets the scope of permissible purposes. FCRA does not limit insurance-related access to underwriting alone. Reason C is not correct. FCRA does not condition report access for claims investigation on premium payment status. Reason D is not correct. FCRA does not require a court order for permissible purposes, such as claims investigation. Question 12. Which of the following best defines risk in insurance fundamentals? A. Uncertainty regarding the occurrence of a future event that may cause a loss. B. Likelihood or probability that a specified loss event will occur. C. Potential monetary severity of a loss before considering policy limits. D. Subject or asset exposed to potential loss under an insurance contract. The correct answer is A. The correct answer defines risk as the uncertainty of whether a loss event will occur, distinguishing it from a probability, severity, or the insured subject. Reason B is not correct. This describes probability, which measures likelihood rather than the uncertainty concept of risk. Reason C is not correct. This describes severity, the potential size of a loss, not the uncertainty of its occurrence. Reason D is not correct. This refers to exposure, the subject or property at risk, rather than the uncertainty itself. Question 13. In insurance fundamentals, which of the following best defines exposure? A. A standardized unit used to quantify insurance risk for premium calculation. B. A measure of the frequency of loss events within an insured portfolio. C. The potential maximum monetary amount of loss before policy limits apply. D. The degree of uncertainty regarding whether a loss will occur. The correct answer is A. The correct answer identifies exposure as the unit of insurance risk measurement on which rates and premiums are based, differentiating it from frequency, severity, or uncertainty. Reason B is not correct. This refers to frequency of losses rather than the measurement unit for underwriting and pricing. Reason C is not correct. This describes potential severity before limits, not the underwriting measure used for rates. Reason D is not correct. This describes risk, uncertainty, not the standardized unit used for premium calculations. Question 14. Which of the following best illustrates a moral hazard in insurance fundamentals? A. An insured failing to maintain a fire alarm system because coverage is in place. B. A damaged roof that raises the chance of water intrusion and subsequent loss. C. Storing combustible materials next to a heat source, increasing fire risk. D. An insured deliberately inflating the value of a claim to receive higher payment. The correct answer is D. The correct answer exemplifies moral hazard by involving intentional dishonesty that increases the likelihood or size of a loss, distinguishing it from physical or morale hazards. Reason A is not correct. This illustrates a morale hazard, carelessness, not an intentional act to defraud. Reason B is not correct. This is a physical hazard, describing a structural defect that raises loss chances. Reason C is not correct. This is a physical hazard, involving a condition that increases loss probability. Question 15. A chemical storage facility has oily rags piled near a heat source, greatly increasing the chance of ignition. Which of the following statements correctly identifies the peril and hazard in this scenario? A. Peril, oily rags, hazard, heat source. B. Peril, heat source, hazard, oily rags. C. Peril, fire, hazard, oil-soaked rags. D. Peril, poor housekeeping, hazard, ignition risk. The correct answer is C. Fire is the direct cause of loss, peril, while oil-soaked rags create a condition that increases the likelihood of fire, hazard. Reason A is not correct. It reverses the roles, treating the condition as the peril instead of the hazard. Reason B is not correct. It misidentifies the heat source as the peril rather than the resulting loss event. Reason D is not correct. It uses broad terms that do not accurately distinguish between the cause of loss and the risk-increasing condition. Question 16. Which of the following best describes a distinguishing characteristic of a stock insurer as compared to a mutual insurer? A. Ownership by policyholders who receive dividends based on surplus distributions. B. Requirement to distribute all investment earnings to policyholders annually. C. Issuance of non-guaranteed policies that grant voting rights to policyholders. D. Ownership by shareholders whose equity interests can be bought and sold. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is ownership by shareholders whose equity interests can be bought and sold, which is the primary feature distinguishing stock insurers from mutual insurers. Reason A is not correct. This describes mutual insurers which are owned by policyholders rather than shareholders. Reason B is not correct. Stock insurers are not required to distribute all investment earnings to policyholders annually. Reason C is not correct. Policyholders in mutual insurers may have voting rights, but this is not a characteristic of stock insurers. Question 17. In a mutual insurer, policyholder dividends most commonly represent which of the following? A. Guaranteed. Additional profit payments specified in the policy contract. B. Return of excess premium after allocating funds for claims and expenses. C. Refunds of insurance taxes levied on the insurer by regulatory authorities. D. Investment income distributions paid to external shareholders. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is return of excess premium after allocating funds for claims and expenses, reflecting how mutual insurers distribute surplus to policyholders. Reason A is not correct. Mutual insurer dividends are not guaranteed payments specified in the contract. Reason C is not correct. Dividends are not refunds of taxes, but distributions of surplus to policyholders. Reason D is not correct. There are no external shareholders in a mutual insurer to receive investment income distributions. Question 18. Heritage. Fraternal society declines coverage to an applicant who is not a member of its lodge system. Which characteristic most directly accounts for this refusal? A. Surplus funds are allocated to charitable activities rather than distributed among the policyholders as dividends. B. Coverage is limited to individuals who complete initiation in the society's lodge system as part of membership. C. Contracts are issued on a non-assessable basis, where insureds do not pay additional assessments after issue. D. Policies incorporate graded premiums that adjust according to the insurer's loss experience for each member. The correct answer is B. Fraternal benefit societies operate under a lodge system requiring initiation and membership as a prerequisite for issuing insurance certificates, so coverage is restricted to those who join the lodge. Reason A is not correct. This option is incorrect because allocating surplus to charitable activities reflects nonprofit status, but does not explain why non-members are denied coverage. Reason C is not correct. This option is incorrect because non-assessable contracts relate to funding mechanisms, not membership eligibility requirements. Reason D is not correct. This option is incorrect because graded premiums based on loss experience concern rating methods, not the lodge membership condition. Question 19. Which concept holds that material facts known by an insurance producer are attributed to the insurer, thereby preventing the insurer from denying knowledge of those facts? A. Fiduciary duty. B. Apparent authority. C. Imputed knowledge. D. Estoppel. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is the principle of imputed knowledge, which attributes any material facts known by the producer to the insurer and prevents the insurer from denying awareness of those facts. Reason A is not correct. Fiduciary duty refers to the obligation of the producer to act in the best interest of the principal, not to the attribution of knowledge. Reason B is not correct. Apparent authority concerns situations where third parties reasonably believe an agent has authority to act, not the imputation of knowledge. Reason D is not correct. Estoppel prevents a party from denying a fact because of prior representations, but does not specifically attribute an agent's knowledge to the insurer. Question 20. Although the agency contract explicitly prohibits a producer from binding coverage, the insurer has consistently honored binders that the producer issues without objection for 2 years. When the producer binds coverage for a client, this power is best described as which type of authority? A. Express authority. B. Apparent authority. C. Inherent authority. D. Implied authority. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is implied authority because the insurer's consistent acceptance of binders, despite an explicit contractual prohibition, created an unwritten power for the producer to bind coverage. Reason A is not correct. This choice is wrong because express authority refers to power specifically granted in the contract, and the contract here prohibits binding coverage. Reason B is not correct. This choice is wrong because apparent authority relies on a third party's reasonable belief based on the principal's representations, not on the insurer's internal acquiescence history. Reason C is not correct. This choice is wrong because inherent authority is a broader legal concept, independent of the insurer's actions, whereas implied authority arises from the insurer's consistent acceptance of the producer's binders. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.